Hello, dear friends. Here we are. Kardec Radio at 11 p.m. Nourishing our souls together. And you're welcome to join us in this program about the book Jesus in the Home. It's really an encounter with the Master, the governor of our planet. And here we are studying this book that was psychographed in 1949. At the end of the World War II, the Spirit Emmanuel with Neio Lucio, through the hands of Chico Xavier, bring to us the solution to all problems. All of our problems will dissolve when our homes open up to Jesus. But not only in the mind, the cognitive, but in the heart, in the feeling, in the actions, making sure that we do try our best, and when we can't, we forgive ourselves and also forgive others. Nobody's asked to be perfect, but today we're going to read a chapter about how we can improve ourselves and be more attentive to the tests in life. Today we're studying chapter 12. Chapter 12 is titled The Four Tests. And in this chapter, we will see first the nonverbal part of Jesus' approach plus the verbal lesson. But we can't forget his presence in itself is already a lesson for us. His patience in explaining, his kindness in teaching, in spite of the ignorance and the misunderstandings of the time. Why are we highlighting this? Because I know many people who say, Vanessa, I'm not going to waste my time sharing with people teachings that deep inside they care less. If we think in that way, we're going opposite direction to the Master. The Master never gave up because we couldn't understand or because we're still hesitant. So his presence in these simple meetings, but so rich, a true treasure that is immortalized in this book by Neio Lucio, brings to us a direction you and I need to share. We need to be patient. We need to always sow the good. That's our task. Or we won't be able to be co-creators in God at greater levels. In the book Evolution into Worlds, chapter 1, if you were here, you know it's still there, Kardec Radio's YouTube playlist, Evolution into Worlds, and Facebook playlist at Kardec Radio. Chapter 1, we learn that we are co-creators. And we have a role to co-create, to cooperate. So, our part is our part. People's part is their part. We need to do ours. So Jesus, by sitting every day at Peter's home, talking to people, telling stories, giving examples, being the full expression of the lesson of the day, is guidance for us. We cannot give up. That's why in the book Living Spring by Emmanuel, we have the lesson, persevere and press on. We need to do it, no matter what. Do not stop the good works you're doing, because it's your part of the fulfillment of your duty before God. What people are going to do with theirs has nothing to do with us. But if we don't do it, then we owe our part to God and to everyone. Okay? So, we're going to say hi to everybody here. Hello, Jailton. Welcome. Welcome, Alicia. How are you? Hello, Paula. How are you? Raquel Bakeshi. Andréa Torres, Nora Brasil. Rihanna, Alexandra, what a joy. John Da Rosa, thank you, John. Lea Severo, dear friend. Lisa Teles, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, thank you. Hello, Dulce, beautiful Dulce. Adilson. Karina. Ah, hello, Karina. Daisy. Hello, dear Daisy. Rudy. Lívia Moraes. Sunshine. Carol Correia. Hello, dear friend. Teresa Castro. How are you? The chapter today is titled The Four Tests. What is it about? Shall we read? Yes. All the stories are very short, but we need to pay attention to the scenario. After reading a few passages from the story of Job, the discussion at Simon Peter's house switched to the soul's faithfulness to the Almighty Father. Pause. We're talking about being faithful to God. Okay. What is to be faithful to God? I don't know. What is it? Do we have to be faithful to God? Well, according to the commandment, and I'm laughing because we're not used to that anymore. We're living at a time on earth that if you mention God, if you talk about fulfilling God's will, people laugh at you. This is the nonsensical era, the rebelliousness. Most part of people on earth are still rebellious against God, regarding God. Are we? Am I being a good child of God? How do I do it? That's a good test. Do I think of God when I wake up? Do I think, right? Do I think about God? Do I thank God about our lives, everything? How am I going to be faithful? Always asking God, what do you want me to do? Right, Larissa? When we have a child, the child is of God. We're temporary tutors and we love our child, but the child is of God. God, what do you want me to do with your child? What can I do to help? Because it's a life that exists beyond us, but is connected to our hearts. So, are we being faithful to God? The past is in the past, right? Says the music. Let it go, let it go. What happened in the past we cannot fix. What we're talking about today. Oh, but in the past is past. We're talking about now, right now. How can I be faithful to God? Funny enough, how do you feel about it? Because the description by Neio Lucio is that when they were discussing about being faithful to God, this was a very special group meeting with Jesus. Because Neio Lucio says, in response to the expression of joy radiating on everyone's faces, Jesus told them the following story. So, thinking about being faithful, how do you feel? Do you feel joyful or do you feel like glum? Do you feel hopeful or you feel depressed? Because if we feel joyful, we're really tuning in. Otherwise, we're still being rebellious. Okay? So, feel it. Okay? All right? Very joyful, Sunshine. Yes, yes, exactly. So Dulce is here with us as well. So when we mention fulfilling God's will, do you feel joy, enthusiasm, happiness, hope, courage? Because He's a loving Father. We need to discover that. So Jesus then, as a wonderful master, tells us a story that there was a city in Nineveh. And you know, Nineveh, it was a city, they say, like Vegas. I'm not gonna talk bad about Las Vegas, but we're talking about, people say sinful cities, quote unquote, but a lot of happening there. Nineveh was like this, okay? Just so we imagine. But there, in that Vegas of the time, there was a man who was so deeply devoted to God, that all his contemporaries held him in particular high esteem. And I'm gonna get short here, because it says that he was so highly considered that the archangels got to know of him. And they asked the Almighty to bring that man back to heaven. But the divine wisdom, note, wisdom, gave the order for him to be sought out in the jungle of the flesh, in order to determine if he was in fact prepared for such a sublime investiture. It's interesting when Jesus uses this expression, jungle of the flesh, because incarnating is a beautiful opportunity, but it's a dangerous expedition, because we are polishing ourselves, refining throughout time. So if I wake up feeling, today I'm going to refine my feelings, my understanding, great, because you see everything as an opportunity to do it. If, on the contrary, I wake up like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to reincarnate. Oh my gosh, there's people on earth. Oh my gosh, right? Then we won't take opportunities. We'll always find obstacles. It is on us to perceive the opportunity, the crisis as an opportunity. Okay? Right, Adilson? Adilson is pointing out a beautiful thing. Thank you, Adilson. And you're right. In the Portuguese version, this chapter is titled The Discoverers of the Human Being, meaning the test that discover who we are. Thank you, Adilson. Sometimes I see translations, when you're faithful translating, people complain. But then, it's worse when we deviate. But that's besides the point. Thank you, Adilson, for bringing that up. We needed to be very tolerant and do what Kardec did. We publish. Did you know that Kardec published the First Spirit's book in 1857 with 501 questions and answers? It was only in 1864 that he published the Spirit's book in its final format. In 1861, that he published the book that we know with 1,019 questions and answers. Many people don't know it. But it's good to know there is a lesson there. A work of this level being given the permission by the high spirits to be published with less than half of the information that was supposed to be there at the end of it all. And it took years, but it was important to do it at a time. And the humility of Allan Kardec to go there and re-add it and add more than half and publish with the same title, because some people would publish the Spirit's Book Part 2, Volume 2, and then we would go crazy reading Volume 1 and 2. So observe this. Observe. Okay, friends? Hello, Wilda Silva. Hello, Pedro. What a joy, Pedro. So, Livia Moraes, thank you, Livia. You're so kind. None of our translations is perfect, but we need to be faithful. Talking about being faithful to God, the angels obeyed God and sent the basic detectors of the righteous individuals. What are they? Mark it down. Want, wealth, power, and anger. Oh my. So what happened? First, want came along. Want, which is always first to appear in such cases, approached the great believer and made its presence felt in a number of different ways by afflicting him with hardships, obstacles, illnesses, and abandonment by loved ones. Oh my Lord, that's a big one. That's a big one. Super big. However, the devout man, full of confidence, knew that the messenger was a heavenly worker and defeated it, proving himself to be increasingly stronger in the virtues of which he had become a model. We will go back to this. Let's go to the next. Then it was wealth's turn. It approached the man and granted him a lavish table, vast resources, and all types of social considerations. But the foresightful disciple remembered charity, and distracting himself from the temptation of easy pleasures, he distributed his money and possessions through a number of good deeds, achieving financial stability and everyone's admiration. So our dear Adilson is writing down: want, money, power, and anger. Thank you, Adilson. Thank you, Dulce, for helping. Having proved victorious in the second trial, it was power's turn, which invested that man with broad, illustrious authority. The devout man, however, remembered that life, with all its honors and gifts, is merely a loan from heavenly providence, and he carefully made use of his power by teaching all those around him through instruction and well-guided work, receiving in exchange the obedience and admiration of the people amongst whom he had been born. Triumphant and happy, the believer was finally visited by anger. In order to probe his spiritual state, the invisible teacher made use of a weak and unlearned servant to touch his self-esteem by talking with obvious disregard about a private matter. Although what he said was in fact true, it constituted real disrespect toward anyone of such a position and inarguable dignity. The devout man could not help himself. An intense wave of blood, like Italian blood probably, that's my comment, spread across his flushed face, and he lost control of himself. By hurling hurtful words, wounding family members and servants, and undermining everything he had done, it took him a number of days to regain his composure. By then, anger had already laid bare his inner spirit, showing that he still had a lot of work to do. Anger notified the Lord that this particular son, enrolled in the school of illumination still had a long way to go in the purifying experience in order to earn a position in the glorious vibrations of the higher life. Pause. Observe, he says, a man enrolled in the school of illumination. Did you know that you are enrolled in the school of illumination too? Yes, you are. And these 4 teachers, they are daily visiting us at some point. Yes. Want. Exactly. Let's go back to each one of them. Because the first one, want, is when I want this, people want that. It's like what I want to do, what people want to do, and the clashes in relationships. But when I make the will of God the supreme will, then I can overcome the obstacles. Wealth, it's kind of easy because we tend to feel better when we have money, when we have material resources, and that's an illusion. An illusion. There are people who are spiritists, and they're still thinking that the day Spiritism is well known by the great authorities of the world, then the world is going to change. Judas had the same mindset. And it's what Mentor Joseph mentioned to us in a mediumistic meeting. It's Judas syndrome that we still have on earth. That when celebrities, people of fame, money, power, get to know of it, we're going to change the world. People still didn't get that Spiritism is for an inner work. It's not a work for the masses. When it becomes a work for the masses, nowadays we don't have preparedness for this. If we do, we're failing it. We are. There will be a day people get to know, but it takes time. It's from within. It's not an external thing. So nowadays, the good spirits were sharing the shock that many people experienced due to a particular healing medium that was internationally respected, and the revelations of the behind the scenes of his misdeeds is a wake-up call for us, because it's not through this pathway that we're gonna conquer grounds. It's not from appearances, from the external to the internal. Jesus comes from the inner to the outer. It's the school of illumination from within. It's not like the Paris. No. It's funny because Spiritism, not by chance, was founded in Paris, France, the city of light, right? But to illuminate our hearts. It's the inner illumination. Inner. Spiritism comes to remind us that we are in the school of illumination, as Jesus is saying, right? Okay? Right, Jailton. Did I make myself clear? Because many people are having the Judas syndrome. I'm gonna talk to celebrities about Spiritism. Well, that particular medium, who was not a spiritist but was a medium from Brazil, came very close to many celebrities, even Oprah. And now, how do you explain? What do you do? It's a message for all of us, especially the spiritists. Though he was not a spiritist, it's telling us, Hold your horses, friends. Let us work steadily in the instruction so problems of this nature won't happen anymore. It happened because we're not focused enough in instructions. I have a friend who is a spiritist, and I was mentioning to him who travels around the world. I said, I think we need to help spiritist centers. Since you travel everywhere, why don't you, and you're a therapist, etc., why don't you help spiritist centers receive courses on fraternal counseling and etc. Things of like greeting people and telling them about what the spiritism is all about so they take secure steps within it. And this friend said, oh, it's too complicated. It's easier to focus in. I won't clash with anybody if I keep on doing the talks and the external beneficence. And then we have the problems that we have because we need instruction in order to serve better. In the school of illumination, Jesus always taught us and said, go, share it, right? Adilson is saying, then presenting Jesus the little purse, yes, in Good News chapter 5, exactly, when they're gathering together. Thank you for bringing that up. We'll read the Judas syndrome. Then presenting Jesus the little purse, small enough to be lost in the folds of his robe, he exclaimed satisfied, Lord, that's Judas. The bag is tiny, but it consists of the first step for us to be able to accomplish something. Jesus serenely looked at him and prophetically replied, yes, Judas, the bag is tiny. However, may God will that you never succumb to its weight. Thank you, Adilson. We need to be very attentive because many of us are just, oh, there was a spiritist event, there were thousands of people. Great, but we think, I remember in 2006, Dr. Raymond Moody Jr. coming to Baltimore for a spiritist event, and he said to me in an interview that is recorded, he said, I always wonder when this romantic Latin American culture allows speakers to work with people's feelings, but I wonder what they learn at the end of it all, because they feel deeply moved. But I always asked, what have they learned? And I think Raymond Moody Jr. in many ways is right. We really need to take it easy with the big shows and be more humble in going to the instruction part of it. Right? That's why the fraternal assistance, the fraternal counseling is essential. It's that 101 that Jesus taught us in a spiritist center in our daily lives that really makes a difference, not the movement of the masses. Spiritism is not a movement for masses. It's an inner illumination. Right, Dulce? Exactly. I agree with you. They are in emotional pain. So, when power comes, what does he do? Interesting. He carefully made use of his power by teaching all those around him through instruction and well-guided work. That's how we use power. To instruct and to guide the work well. We don't use power like many people are using, to be distant from people. On the contrary, we care, we share. When we care, we share. Right? Rihanna is saying, for me, I don't care which religion people choose to express their unique task in their incarnation. I choose to share the Spiritist teaching so that the good teachings will be shared, but those who hear it may still not be able to hear, like Jesus used to say. Agree with you, Rihanna. And you are going to keep on doing it in spite of it all, because that's your co-creation. What people do with it, as Mother Teresa says, it's between God and them, right? There are many people who hesitate creating a Spiritist center because they open it and it's hard work. And they feel frustrated and resented that people are ungrateful, that they are not corresponding to the efforts. But you know, it's not on us to expect that people are going to treat us VIP because of our efforts. We are co-creating. God is the one that is giving to us everything. Our duty is to share and expect nothing in return. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. So listen to this, because now Jesus is going to really bring us a new perspective. People were curious, says Neio Lucio. A look of curiosity appeared on everyone's faces, and no one dared to broach a new subject. Now, the beautiful, coherent Master, smiling serenely, with serenity, Christ concluded. Feel his smile, smiling with serenity. What do you think Jesus was expressing in his smile at this time? People were curious, so he was sending a message through his serene smile. What do you think is the message? Because we needed to perceive the Master as a whole, complete Master. He's a holistic Master. He's not a master of words. That serene smile at this time means a whole lot, because people were curious. It was not enough for them to hear till then. Now they needed to know the conclusion of it all. And he said, with his smile, to me, one of the messages in his serene smile is saying, rest assured that everything is going to turn out all right. At some point, the servant of God is not going to be punished by failing that test of anger. So, take it easy, take it easy. And he's just reassuring us that we're in the school, we don't pass the test, we keep preparing ourselves until we pass that test one day. That's what a school is all about, right? Continuing education. So his final words. When people received all the information they need to qualify for heaven, the loving Father then looks to see if they have been exposed to the instructive powers. Now he says, statistically, majority of believers lose their apparently good standing when one begins testing their moral strength. Majority. Where do majority of people fail? One, problems with family, as he says here. They stop elevating themselves because of illnesses, abandonment by loved ones. They're like, see, all that I do, look, my husband, my wife, my daughter, my child, my son, my mom, my dad, and they stop. See, I'm sick, I cannot help. But people don't understand me. That's where majority of people fail. Okay? So let's mark it now, because he's giving us statistics. Are we going to fail in that too? No, we can no longer fail there. Because we spiritists know better. then many become corrupted by the suggestions of wealth, money, which makes note of their detachment from inferior objectives and their ability to act in sowing the good. So many fail. That's not new to us, it's clear. People start having promotions at work, and I've seen in spiritist centers. You know, I remember talking to a senior spiritist scholar from Brazil, and he said, you clearly see the strategies of the evil spirits. When they see good spiritist workers, they start sending these tasks, and sometimes it's a promotion at work. And people are like, oh, now I'm promoted. I can no longer be in a mediumistic meeting. I can no longer participate in the meetings. You need to prioritize. People ask, but Vanessa, is it possible? It is, yes. And many people think when I retire, when you retire, you don't know if you're going to be here, okay? So when people say this, remember, if their spirit's saying, what is the guarantee you're going to be here for your retirement? And they may reply, do you mean I'm going to die before that? I don't know. But who knows? I don't know mine. Am I going to be able to retire in this life? I don't know. Only God knows. So why do you count on this? It's uncertain. I don't know tomorrow. 2, what if you get sick, pretty sick, you cannot do anything? So don't wait on retirement. And, oh, but I need to work these hard hours because of my family. Okay, Jesus is saying majority of people fail there. Excuses exist. Others fall disastrously, says Jesus, due to the insinuations of power, which tries them to their ability to instruct and protect their companions of the human journey. Even in the Spiritist movement, this happens. I know people who were good friends until they had certain positions, and then they forgot about the newcomers, the small spiritist centers, because now they only care about big events, big things, administrative meetings. In our center, we're not allowed to do this. We are pushed to keep focused on the suffering. We're not going to spend time with meetings of administration that really go nowhere, and meanwhile people who are in need don't have our attention. Too much, as Bezerra de Menezes said once, when we discuss too much of charity, it's too late to bring charity to others. So what is the role of having power? To instruct and protect the companions. This is surprising. Jesus repeated it twice in this message. But Vanessa, how can I fulfill my task when I have power? He says twice in this chapter 12. He says, use power to instruct and protect your companions in the human journey. Share. Share. Same as wealth. Share. But very rare those who triumph over an unexpected visit from anger. Now, why does anger happen? Because, he says, which comes into persons' lives to see if they have overcome their vanity. Oh, mamma mia. If not, their spirit cannot reflect the splendor and the greatness of the Creator in the realm of life eternal. The Master fell silent, smiled with compassion once again, and since no one had anything more to say, the evening came to a close. Practicing silence is pretty good, isn't it? we're learning with Jesus, and that will be good in our meeting. So let's talk about anger. Vanity and anger. The ultimate test. Anger. Thich Nhat Hanh has a book named Anger, Cooling Down the Flames. Beautiful exercises for us. So we need to practice. Psychologically, in psychobiology, we learn anger is a defense mechanism. So do not waste your time being angry when you're angry. Some people do. I'm angry at being angry. Let's not go there anymore. Okay, I'm angry. Why? Because I'm defending myself. It happens in the animal kingdom. But when it comes to this level, we are called to tame it. In the Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 9, Blessed are the meek and peace-loving, we have a few messages about anger, one from a protector spirit and another from Hahnemann, the father of homeopathy. The first message says, pride leads us to deem yourselves more than you really are. Vanity. It is true. Vanity. Paul of Tarsus, when he was Saul, there is a moment that Chico Xavier described in the seminars on mediumship. And I'll read this. It's chapter, which chapter? 6 of the first part of the book, Paul and Stephen. Saul, saying, Saul stood up, red with rage. He then punched Stephen in the face with his clutched fists. Stephen made no attempt to react at all. Why am I mentioning this? Because the same soul that had an anger issue and had a lot of vanity driving this defense mechanism is the one that later, when he is more refined as Paul of Tarsus, working on himself, he writes to the Ephesians and to the Corinthians, talking about the importance of taming our irritation, our anger. And part of it, I thank Neio Lucio this morning for beautifully bringing me those references that I'll read to you, okay? Thank you, Leah. So Paul, the same spirit that first punched Stephen in anger, rage, is the one that later, the same life, and this gives you and I hope that we can do it. Hope, okay? Right, Alicia? Hope someday I don't feel angry to all people. So, hope. Because he said to the Ephesians, therefore, put on the full armor on God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. Ephesians 6:13. Okay? And then in the book Living Spring, there is a chapter that talks about this, 115, and Neio Lucio also sent a sentence from an article in 1975 in the Spiritist magazine of the Brazilian Spiritist Federation named Reformador, the Reformer, saying irritation is always an obstacle in the path, in the direction, it's always like a building block in the direction of rage, wrath, and wrath is an explosion of destructive agents annihilating the best values of life. Andre Lewis, in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship, talks about it too. Rage being a great obstacle in our vibratory field. So what do you do? Since anger is the ultimate test because it talks about pride, vanity, what can we do? A good armor, says Paul in Ephesians. Or to the Corinthians when he says, now you're full, now you're rich, you have reigned as kings without us. I would to God you did reign. He talks about vanity. He says, we need to shield ourselves from that feeling that we're more than others. People come and insult us, but they are not well. We feel sad, but not angry anymore. A good exercise is the relaxation breathing, because we need to hold the physical body first to be able to give a new meaning to the person who is insulting, who is attacking, who is belittling us, who is being sarcastic, who the person is sick. I'm so sorry. Because happy people are not sarcastic. Happy people do not belittle anyone. Happy people do not undermine anyone. Happy people do not insult anyone. That new meaning will allow me to feel compassion, and I will tame my anger. I then feel sad and sorry, and I pray. One day will be like Stephen. He was punched. He did not react. He was stoned to death. He did not react. Listen to this. The ultimate training. This is not Jesus, huh? It's Stephen. Stephen. He was dying, stoned to death. And this is page 196 of the book Paul and Stephen. The dying man looked at Saul without hate. And he said, imagine a dying man bleeding. May God bless, and he's talking to his sister, bless you and Saul. Your beloved one is not my enemy, but a brother. Saul must be good and generous. He defended Moses to the end. When he meets Jesus, he will serve him with the same zeal. Be a loving and faithful companion for him. And this is not Jesus. This is Stephen. Why am I repeating this? Because Jesus is giving us another person as a model, saying you can do it. So tell yourself, let me tell myself, I can do it. I can tame my flames. I can tame my flames. I can cool them down in the waters of hope, in the waters of joy, right? I can breathe in and out and say, I'm going to pray for the person who is doing this. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sunshine is saying, Marshall Rosenberg of Compassionate Communication teaches that behind anger is always an unmet need. This is very helpful as well. Thank you. Super helpful. Unmet need. And what is that? Pride. Ego. It's ego-centered. But we're not going to be angry being angry. We're not going to be ashamed. We're also going to be loving to us and say, I can cool these flames. Right? I can cool these flames. This is not about me. Let me pray for this person. Right? So, friends, what are we going to do in the next 24 hours? Let us pray that we can cool the flames of anger and give a new meaning to it. and say, I don't need to protect myself because I'm already protected by God. I'm already protected by God. I don't need to defend myself. I know it's easier said than done, but it's a practice. It is a practice. And do what you gotta do with your resources, sharing the good. And when the test comes, let us pray, oh God, may we pass the test and be a better co-creator of yours today than we were yesterday. So thank you, friends. Thank you, Silvotero. Thank you, Wilda Silva. Thank you, everyone. Tomorrow when we come back, the lesson is about the sincere revolutionary. For now, we want to revolutionize our lives by cooling down the flames of anger, by feeling that God provides to us all that we need, so we don't need to kick and scream and protect ourselves because we are already protected. Okay, friends, a big hug to you, and until tomorrow. Thank you, Rihanna. God willing.